Marvel movies aren't always totally accurate to the comics they adapt, and lots can change between the page and the big screen. Unfortunately, this means that some characters end up having some of their best powers removed. Here are the Marvel movie characters with powers you didn't know about. While he's a formidable hero in the MCU, Falcon actually doesn't have any bona fide superpowers to speak of. In the comics, however, Sam Wilson has a much greater range of abilities. Captain America: Civil War introduces Red Wing, a flying drone that Falcon uses against Crossbone's terrorists, and later in the fight against the Pro-Accords heroes. In the comics, however, Red Wing is an actual hawk with whom Sam Wilson shares a telepathic bond. Without saying a word, Sam can communicate with Red Wing, give him commands, and see through his eyes. Not only does Wilson have powers, but for a time, the Falcon believes he's actually a mutant too. The reveal comes in the 1983 through 1984 Falcon miniseries when Wilson becomes a target of the mutant-hunting Sentinel robots. This was revised, however, before Falcon could join any X teams. In 2003's Avengers number 64, it's revealed that while Falcon isn't a mutant, he's still more powerful than ever. Initially believing his telepathic bond only worked between himself and Red Wing, Falcon learns his abilities can work on any bird, as well as whole flocks of birds simultaneously. Both the comics and the films depict an incredible Hulk who's tough to kill. But in 2018, the job of Hulk's enemies got that much tougher. In Avengers number 684, the Hulk is brought back from the dead, having been put in the ground 2 years previous by Hawkeye in Civil War II number 3. As part of the story of his resurrection, it's revealed the Hulk can't be killed, at least not for good. Reaching far back into comics of the past, the writers showed multiple times that the Hulk died, only to soon return, often with little or no explanation. The story then leads directly into the series Immortal Hulk, in which both Bruce Banner and his alter ego are repeatedly killed, often more than once in the same issue, only to return within a few hours. Ironically, a little bit of this has been reflected in the films, but it was actually before the Hulk's immortal status was established in the comics. In the final battle of 2017's Thor Ragnarok, Banner leaps from the Grandmaster spaceship onto the Bifrost, apparently expecting to transform into the Hulk before he lands. Hey, it happened before. Instead, Banner hits the Rainbow Bridge head-on, and it looks like he might genuinely be dead, until moments later when the Hulk emerges. Eddie Brock and his alien symbiote showed no shortage of strength in 2018's Venom. But in the comics, his list of powers is even longer. For one, Venom has the ability to mimic the superpowers of any enhanced humans he bonds with, which is why in the comics, long after the symbiote separated from Peter Parker, Venom still uses Spider-Man's abilities. While bonded with the symbiote, Eddie can make himself appear to be wearing any clothing he chooses and can even disguise himself as other people. And while Venom shows that the symbiote can heal its human host, when Flash Thompson takes on the symbiote in the comics, it proves able to do something even more extraordinary. Thompson lost his legs as the result of wounds he suffered during the Iraq War. But after Thompson bonds with Venom, the symbiote grows legs whenever Thompson uses its powers, giving the veteran a chance to walk whenever he wishes. In Avengers: Age of Ultron, the MCU's version of the Scarlet Witch uses a range of powers such as telekinesis and telepathy, which only seem to get stronger as the franchise progresses. But in the comics, Scarlet Witch's abilities are even more complex, and staggeringly powerful too.
There's nothing more horrifying than a miracle.
In the source material, Wanda uses chaos magic to warp reality. On a smaller scale, she might do something like causing metal to rust so she can break through a solid wall. Or if she was threatened by a crowd of enemies, she could release a blast of magical energy to take them all down, without ever breaking a sweat. But on a larger scale, Scarlet Witch's powers can have literally world-changing consequences. On multiple occasions, for example, she has brought the dead back to life. In the 2004 event, Avengers Disassembled, she generates whole armies of enemies like Ultron robots and Kree warriors to attack the Avengers. In the following year's House of M, she changes the face of the world, including making her fellow mutants the dominant world power. Then, towards the end of the event, she takes away every mutant's powers by infamously stating, "No more mutants." Only the intervention of a certain Sorcerer Supreme allows a handful of mutants to retain their powers. In The Incredible Hulk, Bruce Banner and Betty Ross go to scientist Samuel Stearns for help in finding a cure for Banner's condition. After Banner is captured by the military, Emil Blonsky forces Stearns to inject him with Banner's blood, turning him into the Abomination. The last time Stearns appears, the Abomination knocks him to the ground, and Banner's blood begins dripping into an open wound on the scientist's head, causing his skin to start bubbling. So what's all that about? Well, in the comics, Samuel Stearns is the Hulk's arch nemesis, the leader. When he first appears in the comics, he's the polar opposite of Banner. Rather than a brainy scientist turned into a super strong monster by gamma rays, he's a high school dropout made highly intelligent by the same radiation. As well as taking on a radically different appearance, the leader enjoys beyond genius intelligence and a host of psychic powers. He's been shown to use telekinesis and can also take over people's minds and have them do his bidding. The only limitation to his mental control over others is that it doesn't work on people affected by gamma radiation, such as the Hulk himself. One of the few actors from The Incredible Hulk to have made a return later in the MCU is William Hurt's Thaddeus Ross. Thunderbolt is one of the Hulk's oldest enemies, and in the comics, he eventually becomes a little more than just the Secretary of State. In 2008's Hulk #1, a new red-skinned Hulk shows up to wreak havoc, and it looks like he's even more powerful than the original. It's eventually revealed that this monster is the General himself. As it turns out, Ross got the powers from a group calling itself the Intelligentsia, composed of brainy Marvel villains like MODOK, the Red Ghost, and the Mad Thinker. Red Hulk has abilities comparable to that of the original, but with one major difference. He can absorb energy to keep making himself stronger and stronger. This added advantage makes him capable of beating the heck out of the original Hulk, Iron Man, and Thor, among others. After being defeated by the original Hulk, the Red Hulk becomes something of a hero, and he's soon welcomed into the ranks of the Avengers. After the events of the 2012 line-wide event Avengers vs. X-Men, Ross forms his own version of the Thunderbolts as a means of fighting injustice, without the legal and moral constraints of the Avengers, which would be a pretty ironic turn-up for the MCU version of the character. In her earliest comic book appearances, Betty Ross is little more than Bruce Banner's love interest and usually takes on the role of damsel in distress. But her role in the Hulk's life has led to a number of transformations for Betty, some of which have made her physically powerful enough to handle the Green Goliath one-on-one. In 1973's Incredible Hulk, numbers 168 and 169, Betty is brainwashed by the villain MODOK and transformed into the Harpy, a gamma-irradiated flying creature with claws, super strength, and the ability to fire energy blasts from her hands. While her tenure as the avian monster is brief, she proves powerful enough to KO the Hulk twice in that time. For a much longer stretch, Betty takes on the role of Red She-Hulk. This goes down when MODOK and the leader revive her from death and give her similar powers to Red Hulk. As Red She-Hulk, Betty is brainwashed and largely portrayed as a villain. Eventually, however, she strikes out on her own as a hero, briefly joins the Defenders, and even teams up with the original Hulk.
Best of both worlds.
While Betty's Red She-Hulk powers are forcibly stripped away from her in 2014's Hulk #8, in later comics she proves even more powerful. In 2019's Immortal Hulk #14, Betty is shot in the head and killed by the mercenary Bushwhacker. She returns in later issues as the monstrous Red Harpy, with a form similar to that she took on as the Harpy, only red instead of green. And that definitely didn't happen in the movie. The movie version of Beast has a lot in common with his comic counterpart. One aspect of Hank McCoy that isn't depicted in the films, however, is his tendency to dramatically change his physical appearance. Sometimes these changes are explained by plot, and other times they're explained simply by the character undergoing a secondary mutation. When he first appears in 1963's Uncanny X-Men #1, the Beast doesn't look particularly different from other humans. Later, Hank drinks a serum that makes him more powerful and covers his body in gray fur. After a clash with the villainous Quasimodo in 1972's Amazing Adventures #14, Beast's gray fur turns blue, leading to the classic bouncing blue Beast look most fans are familiar with. He remains in this form for many years, with a brief break during X Factor when he's temporarily made to look more human. When Beast becomes a regular in Grant Morrison's game-changing New X-Men, premiering in 2001, McCoy is still covered with blue fur. But his features take on a more feline appearance as a result of that secondary mutation. The change makes McCoy fear he's losing his grip on humanity, and he actually considers looking into a cure for his mutant gene in Astonishing X-Men. In All New X-Men, premiering in the early 2010s, Beast undergoes yet another secondary mutation. It frees him from the feline form, giving him a bulkier look, less hair on his head, and a face that looks a little like a bat's. The MCU Drax definitely isn't a guy you'd want to mess with.
Die, spaceship!
This version of the character is mostly inspired by the 2005 Drax the Destroyer miniseries, in which the titular hero is killed and subsequently resurrected in a less powerful but more intelligent form. But there is an older version of the hero, and this one is far stronger. Unlike the version depicted in the movies, the Drax of the comics is specifically created to destroy Thanos by Kronos, the Mad Titan's grandfather. In this iteration, Drax could fly and fire powerful energy blasts out of his hands. While Drax rarely seems quite up to the task of defeating Thanos, he holds his own against him, which is pretty impressive in of itself. After being resurrected just before 1991's Infinity Gauntlet event, Drax is more powerful than ever, though he's afflicted by diminished intelligence. Still, he proves himself the physical equal of Marvel's most powerful heroes, including the Hulk, Thor, and the Silver Surfer. Drax also seems to have the built-in capacity to revive himself after death, though he usually changes significantly after a resurrection. There's never any real explanation as to why he keeps coming back to life again and again, other than his quest to kill Thanos. Presumably, as long as Thanos is alive, Drax will never be able to stay dead. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more Looper videos about your favorite movies are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.